And today's broadcast is brought to you by Eclectic Horseman Magazine. Stay tuned for Eclectic Conversations hosted by Emily Gitching.
All right, well, I'm here today with JJ Tate of Team Tate Academy and Team Tate Dressage. Thank you so much for joining me today for a visit.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get talking. I love horses.
Awesome. Well, awesome. That's fantastic. Well, orient us a little bit about how you fit into the horse world. I went to your website. You have so many cool things going on, but just introduce yourself to folks and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. So I am a international dressage rider and trainer. I've been riding dressage since I was 11. So that's a very, very, very long time. I've spent an extensive amount of time in Europe, really training with the best. And I had, still have, he's 88 now, but I have an amazing mentor in Charles De Kunffy, who is originally Hungarian. And he's the one who sort of set me up after I graduated high school. I moved to Budapest and trained with Gyula Dalos. And still to this day, you know, I still talk to Charles De Kunffy, who's my mentor, and he has written a lot of books, and he's very, very classical, and so much about like what's right for the horse. Like there's no good riding, or there's no, you know, special kind of riding. There's just good riding and bad riding, and good horsemanship and bad horsemanship. And so for me, I've kind of taken a lifetime study of how can we help horses become better athletes, feel safe in their selves, enjoy what they do, stay sound, be healthy, you know, all the things that just make it so fun to be around horses. And I really feel like the lessons, just like life, like horses just offer us feedback. And it's really a lesson about how am I doing? Who am I being right now? My mentor, Charles, always talks about, and it's this funny quote of like, it's not a horsing sport, it's a riding sport. And the human needs to learn to become a rider with a capital R. And so I've really taken that to heart, and have been training with him for over 35 years. And it's just been an amazing thing to be able to bring that to anybody, anywhere around the world. During COVID, you know, I was before like riding and training and competing and trying out for the Olympics and things like that, you know, and wanting to be at the top in my sport, you know. But I love teaching, and I'm a lifelong student. I love learning. I love learning about other things about horses, you know, but it's also made me a great teacher. And so I love to share my love of dressage and why every horse on the planet could benefit from dressage. And so in 2020, we went online, and Charles always was like, we need an academy. No one can go anywhere to learn. He learned in an academy. The Spanish riding school in Vienna is an academy. Like there's these old schools in Saumur, France, you know, where they have these true classical riding schools, right? And we have nothing like that in the United States. And so my friend Catherine was like, we should take it online. And I'm like, because, you know, I was panicking during COVID. I was like, I can't leave my farm. No one's coming here. You know, like, what are we going to do? And she's like, we should go online. We should go online. All your clients all over the country, you know, would love to be part of something. And so it was just this awesome idea at a scary but amazing time that I didn't even know what Zoom was, you know. And so yeah, so now we're all over the world. We've got almost 1,000 members, and you can decide how involved you want to be, but we've got weekly videos that drop of me. I ride with the mic and I talk about how you do stuff, or how you can train your horse to do other things, and problems you might run into. And so every week there's a new video. Every other week we have a tack room chat where we sit in our tack room and you know what videos we're reviewing, and we've got live people, usually me. I have a couple other coaches, and you can like get one-on-one feedback about like, hey, I tried this exercise with my horse. He did this. Can you help me? And we help problem solve for people. Some of the apprentices get a monthly lecture by me or some of my colleagues. And then the trainers in the academy also get a lesson. So they can do that in person or online or in clinics or whatever. So yeah, we're doing it. And I of course still teach a lot in person because I just love it. So I love sharing about how great I think dressage is and how it can be beneficial for all horses under the sun.
Oh my gosh, I have so many questions. Like, that was so amazing. And I'm like, okay, and this and this and this. Okay, so where to start? Okay, so you said that you started riding dressage when you were 11.
I did.
So what was it about it? Something must have really like sparked with you.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
I started riding at 7. I started dressage. That was just like hunt seat and whatever. And then I started riding dressage at 9. And then I met my mentor at 11. And so he kind of was like this part of my subconscious. And we lived in a tiny, tiny town in Wisconsin that like, I don't know how she got a hold of him to like come there because there was no internet, right? You couldn't Google someone's name, but he came and I just, from the get-go, horses are in my bones. Like I feel my best self when I'm with them. I just want to be in the barn. The happiest time for me is when they're all chewing their hay and it's like quiet at night. And we all know that feeling, right? We're just like, I'm home, And so I think that just grabbed me as a young girl that like this giant horse, and I think at the time I was also very much the ugly duckling of my household. I have like 2 gorgeous sisters that were like modeling, and I was like glasses and braces and like completely awkward. And with a name like JJ, people didn't know if I was a girl or a boy. I mean, it was just like, a tough time growing up. And horses gave me my worth. Like here I am, this like skinny little kid, and I could like walk this horse down the dark hallway to the arena to turn the lights on. And like, he would let me control him. It's 1,200 pounds of animal. And like, if I did it right, if I could communicate the right way, he would like do these amazing things. And I was like, wow, like, look at me. Like, it just really like gave me my life force, and horses gave me that. And I always promised myself like I would give back, if I ever made it big, and I still haven't made it to the Olympics yet, but I'm still working on it. But I've just done a lot of learning, and I love sharing what I'm learning. So I always said, I'd love to pay back the horse for giving me so much of myself to me, that I was like, I really want to help educate and really help improve horses' lives by educating their riders. And so that's where that all came from. But from the beginning, like to connect with a horse like it's your best friend, that's what it's about for me. And dressage for me is the most beautiful way. Of course, there's beautiful cross country, there's beautiful polo, there's beautiful Western, a ranch routine can be beautiful, right? But for me, it's like, it's beautiful because it has like elements of harmony, and which in my mind is dressage, and so that's where that spoke to me right away. Of course, I did a lot of bareback riding and I did a lot of jumping as a kid, just to be like a well-rounded horsewoman. But I knew from the beginning that like dressage was for me because of that partnership and trust and deep love for each other, really. And anything honestly that I can do as their like physical therapist to get them stronger and be able to do all the tasks that we ask them to do. Like if I can help the horse understand it better, get stronger and build their body to make their job easier, like I love that piece of it too.
Awesome. Yeah, I took German in high school because I wanted to go to Germany and do it. Like, awesome. So I totally get. I'm like, yeah. Okay, so tell me about going to Hungary. Like, how amazing was that?
I mean, still to this day, like, and now I've been back and forth to Germany quite a bit, but like, I wrote letters because that's what you did back in my day. So it's like the late 90s, right? Or mid 90s, right? And I'm like, I want to go to Europe. I'm going to take a gap year out of high school, right? And I was like, should I go to college and play basketball at Marquette? Or should I go to Europe and learn to ride horses? And I was like, oh, I love basketball, right? And I was like good in high school and all that. And I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, horses. Like there wasn't going to be no way I would have to give up the horses to play that kind of basketball. And I was like, I can't do that. And so, and at the time WNBA didn't exist. So that was like, okay, I'm doing horses because that is my first love and in me so much. So I wrote letters to everyone, and the only one who really answered me was Charles De Kunffy. He was coming for a clinic, and he was like, oh, I got your letter. And my two, ideas for you would be the Spanish riding school in Vienna, which of course doesn't take women. So you'd have to train with Arthur Kotas, who is the head chief rider at the time, at his private stable. Or you could go to Eula Dalos in Hungary, and he's got a daughter about your age. I think that you'd maybe get some more individual attention, mm-hmm. And in my head, just like you, I was like, where the hell is Hungary? Like, what? Like, I'm going to Germany. Like, that's where I'm supposed to go. Like, that's where it's at, And he was like, no, the best place for you to go is to Eula Dalos, who was an Olympic rider, and he was amazing, but very classical and very much a friend of the horse. Mm-hmm. And I think back, it's such a powerful age, like 18 to 21, like you're really out of the house for the first time. Really, you're really kind of figuring out who you are, what you stand for, what you want to do, what things mean to you, living on your own, and really finding your identity. And I was like, it was such an amazing time. I learned so much, and I just couldn't get enough. And so I went over with two horses for like 7 months, and the horses got so strong, I didn't even know what we did. It was like magical. I was like, all I remember doing was riding a lot without stirrups, a lot of small circles, and a lot of transitions, And these horses were like, wow, they learned everything. And I was like, this is amazing, just by getting the horses stronger. And I'm like, So I came home, and I was like, I spent, 7 months in Europe. And then I soon very quickly got home and was like, and I know nothing, and I need to go back. I need to go back, because I'm like, there's so much more, So I sold one and leased out the other, and then decided like, I'm so into process. I'm like, I got like an engineering mind. I'm like, I need to understand how, why, what, when, all the things. I want to know all about it, So I was like, I took a young horse back over, and that was basically like my college fund was spent on apprenticing in Europe, and amazing. Like, I took another, and so I was over there for almost 2 years then that time, because I was like, I got to figure this out. And of course, and it just opens up, like, the more you learn, you don't know, and there's just, the learning continues forever. But it was amazing, a huge pivotal point in my life. And then I came home at 21, and became like the top young rider at Grand Prix, and turned pro. And then I just didn't look back. Yeah. Horse every day, all day.
Awesome. That sounds so awesome. You mentioned it at the start, like you were talking a little bit about like the term horsemanship. So like, define what that means to you.
Horsemanship to me means you learn to speak horse. I think a lot of time in my life I spend, because I'm a teacher of people, it's really fun for me to ride. I love riding. That's like where I feel it's my most fun, but that's so like centric to me and my horse, right? And so for me to share with other people, I feel a lot of times I'm a translator. Like, horses are constantly talking and telling us about themselves, about us, all kinds of things about us. And I do feel like being a great horsewoman and a horseman is about learning that language and learning what not only what they're saying, but where it's coming from. You know, horses can say a lot of things in a big way, right? But why they're saying it is also like a deeper level down, right? Like that horse does this thing, whatever that might be, right? But you know, and it doesn't do it because it's trying to be dominant. Is it doing it because it's insecure? And you would handle that in like two totally different ways, you know, reading that horse's internal intention, and being able to change yourself to change the outcome. And so that's for me, like what horsemanship means. And, you know, some people are great at it on the ground in a rope halter. Some people are really great in a Western saddle. I'm working on being great at it in a dressage saddle, because I just feel like there's a deep red thread that runs through all great horsemen. And that's connection to the horse.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit about your students. Like, you're teaching them to read horses and see horses, and tell me a little bit about where they're coming from.
Yeah, like I have all kinds of students. I've got some young apprentices. I've got a lot of my lady riders. I've got young trainers. I've got some not so young trainers. And for me, like we're all on this trajectory of learning how our bodies and minds and our aids and our intentions can truly affect the horse, either carry his body better, do different exercises in the most efficient way. You know, we talk a lot about the rider needing to be in proper equitation, because everything matters to the horse, right? Like I also worked a lot with a wonderful master named Walter Zettel. And he would always be like, JJ, horses can feel the fly. Like, you're too loud, you know? And I'm like, no, this one. So he doesn't listen to my leg. And he's like, no, but like he can. You got to figure out how to get lighter and quieter, because they feel everything, you know? And so that's been something really fun to challenge my riders to do and learn about. So there's a lot of focus on riding and not just horsing. It's not just getting the horse to go do the thing. It's about how are we doing it, you know, and how our bodies can get into the right position, the right moment to get the horse to do a certain exercise in the most beautiful way, in the perfect balance, with the most ease that we can. And that's really what we focus on. We do a lot of different exercises in the rider, learning to actually ride and control our bodies more, right? Because the better and clearer we can be in our cues, the easier the job the horse has. And so that's what we focus a lot on.
Awesome. So tell me about competition. Like, tell me about what is satisfying to you about, like, tell me how you, like, your relationship with competing.
Competitions. Yeah. Great question. Because there's always this big conversation about, well, there's like beautiful classical riding, and then on this other thing is this competition riding, and they're not the same. And for me, I love to compete because it keeps my riding sharp in the way of like, can I ask the horse to do that thing right at that spot? And how beautiful can I do it? Right? Because we're judged on not only accuracy, but how well it was done, you know? And so for me, I would never want to do it from a place of non-integrity, and I would never want to rush a horse into something to fulfill anyone's ego, me or my owners or my sponsors or whatever, right? It's not about that. It's about how we do it. And so for me, like, it's the fun challenge of getting my horse so highly tuned to me that we can do the test. Like we know the subject so well, we can pass the test. You know what I mean? Like I feel like nowadays in the culture of our sport, dressage, it's very much like, let's study all the answers that are on the test and we'll just listen. We'll just do those. You need to memorize the questions that are on the test only. And I want to actually have knowledge and deep understanding. And I want my horse to have the same, that we have a really strong foundation and ability to do the things. And this other thing is just ask me any question that you want because we'll be able to do it. You know, and so that's a little bit where my mind goes when I think about competing. I would never want to stress the horse. I want him to go in feeling proud and confident and ready with me to like pass the test, you know, instead of like, I'm forcing you to do these exercises like a little marionette puppet, right? And we see it. We see that, right? And so I don't want to do that at all. And so it would be easy for me to like crawl in, I call it like my little laboratory. Like I'm just out in the arena, like what happens if I mix a little shoulder in with a little school trot and I put my outside leg back here? Ooh, that, you know. So I so easily like, I'm out in my laboratory, you know, playing horse, talking horse. And so like, for me, it's also good to be like, where am I in context to the rest of the world? And I could just stay there, but then I don't put myself out there to show what I feel is beautiful riding. And that's what I want to bring to the competition world, is that it doesn't need to be done under stress, in non-integrity, and not for the horse's best benefit. And so for me, it's important to keep showing up with beautiful riding and continuing to compete, even though sometimes you feel like you're a little bit like a salmon, like going up the river against the current, you know. But again, like horses above all else. And that's what I stand for. And I love them so much that that's what I want to portray in a competition.
I like that. That's a lot to think about. You mentioned when we first started talking about maybe going to the Olympics someday. Like, what would that mean to you if that were in the future?
That would mean that good prevails over evil. And not that like, there's a lot of wonderful people at the Olympics. I think this last Olympics in Paris, it was absolutely magical with Versailles in the background, kind of one of the places where, you know, hundreds of years ago, dressage was being practiced, you know, just incredible. So with Versailles in the background and beautiful riding going on, to even like French music, it was absolutely breathtaking and beautiful. And for me, like to be able to compete in that highest level, proves that the good work works. And that, and also I'm actually started to write a book with the idea of you don't need to go to the Olympics to become Olympic, right? Like my trainer and mentor, Charles, would always say, every horse has their own Olympics, right? We've gotten certainly horses that were like a poor little disaster, couldn't pick up the right lead canter, was so afraid or lame or just uncoordinated. And like one day we call it like, you know, the clouds part and the sunbeam comes down and the angels hit the high C, you know, and you're like, the whole world makes sense in this moment, right? And then it passes and then you're like, but that was harmony. I was completely synced up with this horse's spirit. And this one thing that used to be so hard for this little guy, he did it and it felt easy. And that's that horse's Olympics, you know. To go to the actual Olympics would mean so much to me because it's done for the right reasons, in the right way, for the good of the horse, and that's inspiring to me. But again, knowing that we can all sort of win at our own life and we can win at our own Olympics, and We can make a good horse better, you know, and a better horse great. And then if one day I happen to get a great horse and I can make it phenomenal, it's the same science of riding, and that's really what I'm passionate about. So I honestly get just as much excitement out of, you know, the little underdog guy, you know, turning into a beautiful rat, like his body changes, his character gets confident, you know. Those are sometimes the bigger wins. And sometimes those horses turning into that horse is actually harder or was a bigger challenge than some of these horses that actually go to the Olympics, you know. So that's but it's always been a dream, and that would be fun to prove that good riding can win.
Yeah, I like that. Well, talk a little bit more about, like, I mean, I've seen that when horses start using themselves better and more athletically, and they're strong, like, it changes how they feel about themselves.
Totally.
So, like, maybe you can share a little bit about that.
That's really when you start to see a horse, like maybe he was afraid of traffic, or he, like, his body was kind of meek or weak, and he doesn't feel like an owner of his own life because he's can't find his body, right? He's insecure because he doesn't have good balance. Maybe the former training made him like rush off his feet. So then he was insecure about that. And to like watch a horse kind of like blossom into themselves, you know, because at the end of the day, like, dressage is a French word for training. And really what we do as dressage trainers is pick the right exercises to build the horse's weaknesses, to help a horse function out of pain and in deep control, you know, of his body, you know. And I feel like with that, as they become that, you see a little sparkle in their eye come back, and you see even sometimes in a herd they start to become a little different, you know, and a little more sure of themselves. And riders too, to be honest, right? There's so often that people come in one way and turn into something bigger and stronger, right? Because the horses sort of ask us to show up in our best selves. And as much as we always think about like, oh, it's about the horse, it's about the horse, they're just such amazing creatures, because we think we're the ones giving the lesson, but we're actually the ones receiving it. And that's what's just never ceases to amaze me. Even though you can see the horse is changing, but you were like, wow, who did I need to become to help that horse get there? Maybe I needed to find more courage, or maybe I needed to find more focus, or maybe I needed to find more discipline in my consistency, right? Like whatever we help pull out of that horse, we sort of pulled out of ourselves too. And so that's what's so just amazing about the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was like a great, okay. There's like, I have so many questions, but I don't want to take up like all of your day. So, talk to me a little bit about mentorship. What's the importance of mentorship?
Oh God, great question. I feel like I've been taken under people's wings, and I feel like when the lesson is ready, the teacher appears. Like throughout my life, like the next right mentor showed up for me. And I've trained with these people for years and years and years, like some 10, you know, some 8. But of course, Charles, who I met when I was 11, and I'm turning 47 soon, right? It's a very long time. Like him being my in my train of thought, I think is really incredible. And I think that like Michelangelo had apprentices that lived with him and mixed paint for him. And, you know, whatever. Like the apprentices really were taken under the wing of that teacher. And for me, because I had that in my life, that's really important to me to be able to be someone who can share the great teachings of the great masters, which again flows through all equestrian disciplines. But then also to be sort of a safe space eventually when my young trainers or apprentices go on to like practice a new technique, right? They can still like come back to me and be like, hey, I'm struggling with understanding this, or I'm having a personal thing, how to deal with this owner of my horse. You know, like I just feel like that person you can always rely on to be a bit of a not only a springboard to like go on and keep growing, but also a safety net to be like, you can always ask me, you know, what you need. You know what I mean? Like they come and they ride with me almost daily. They're in my stable. They learn horsemanship. They learn horse husbandry. They learn a lot about the vet. They learn a lot about riding. They learn a lot about teaching, equitation, all those things. And it's like a deep study and like an intense study. And then we kind of have to like, okay, now you got to go practice, because this time in the saddle of solving, you know, running into a problem, solving the problem. Oops, that wasn't quite right. Try something else. You know, that applied practice, you know, and that deliberate practice is so important. And nowadays culture, you know, where everything needs to look perfect on Facebook and Instagram, people are too busy looking like a trainer and not actually learning to be a trainer, because no one's allowed to have this vulnerability of not being great at something. And that's the beauty of learning, right? Like it's okay to like embrace, like as Brene Brown said, like embrace the suck, like beginner's mindset. Like it's okay to not be great at it, because by not being great at it, you turn into a great teacher. Also, you'll become a master, like practice makes master, but then also you'll become a teacher too, because you understand the struggle and you'll have that empathy when you teach people who are having a trouble with it. Be like, hey, don't worry about it. Like I was also not great at that part and I worked on it and I got better, you know? So I think there's kind of a twofold idea of deep study, then the springboard of then like go and practice, and yet still be a safe space to come and unpack some stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's so like refreshingly healthy and marvelous. Like that's just, I mean, you know, like that's just wonderful. I just think that's so fantastic. And I love that on your, I mean, like it's like right on the front of your website where you've got the things that you're doing, the clinics you're teaching, and then the events that you're hosting, and the train, like you're living what you teach, and that you're also learning.
Yeah.
You know, like I just think that's just so wonderful.
Yeah.
I think a lot of trainers like feel this pressure too, like once they are in the position of being the authority, to then be a learners as well, as challenging.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And then we need to have all the answers. And I always say, like when I teach clinics and stuff, I'm like, you know, they're like, oh, I have a question. I'm like, I have an answer. And if I don't have the answer, I will go home to my books and I will find the answer and I'll get back to you tomorrow. Right. Where it's like, I hope I have a good answer for you, but if not, I will go find out. Right. Because, and it's not because, oh my God, I can't show that I don't know. It's like, no, that's super interesting. And I would like to know about that. You know, sometimes I laugh, you know, when you've got like young people, like kids, you know, and they're like, why? And you're like, I don't know why, you know, like, but I'm like, I have that brain that I'm like, well, why is that? Huh. And it's so fun, like the Midwest Horse Fair or like Equitana or Equine Affair, you know, because for us, we're so much in a bubble down here in Wellington or in the dressage world in general. It's like very, very, very tiny place, right? So we like lose perspective of like, there's like a whole nother world of horses, and actually beyond horses, a whole nother world of like starving children in Africa, or, you know, whatever, working donkeys in India. Like there's a whole nother, like you got to kind of have a world view in that too. But it's so easy to get just in your one lane, you know? And so it's so inspiring for me to hear how other teachers in different genres talk about stuff, right? Like you know, sometimes it's like, oh, well, it's not a dressage clinic. It's like a fair, and there's going to be all kinds of people there. And I come home so refreshed and inspired of what I learned just sitting in on maybe the presenter before me. And you're like, aha, I see what he's doing on the ground there, or how I got that horse in the trailer. I'm like, that's dressage, isometric resistance, make it comfortable, take the pressure away, you know, like whatever it is. And you're just like, just fun to be connected to all of that type of horseman too, you know, where it is all the same thing, you know, we're all saying the same thing. And so sometimes it's fun for me to be out of my sport too, and get inspired by other horsemen as well. So inspiring.
Yeah. So speaking of the Midwest Horse Fair, I've never been, so I'm super excited to get to go this year, and you're going to be there. So tell us a little bit about what you've got planned this year.
So first off, dress warm, because I know it's April, but sometimes it snows. And I remember, like, it's so like amazing for me to go, because I used to go as a kid, because I'm from Fort Atkinson originally. I was born and raised in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. So this is like an hour from our house, right? So we would, like, me and my best friend, whose ever mom would want to take us, we'd be like, we'd go up there, and, you know, it was just so awesome. And then I, for many years, was like part of the Friday and Saturday night event. And so we would always do like a fun freestyle as our dressage expo, like, you know, we'd be part of the show. And unfortunately, I live too far away now, because our farm is in South Carolina. So I don't bring horses up now, but somewhere in my brain, I'm like, how could I get to go back to that and like do some riding demos? But yeah, we've got a whole bunch of different classes we're gonna do. We just picked the horses the other day. We picked a wide range of different horses, different breeds, and we're gonna just work on everything from preparing for flying changes to improving your equitation, improving your horse's balance, symmetry, you know, everything that really creates a sound and happy athletic horse. So, but yeah, I just had a special place in my heart for the Midwest Horse Fair.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to get to go, and I will pack my long underwear. So thank you for that tip.
Yes. Yeah. If you're looking at your heavy coat, definitely bring the heavy coat.
Okay, good to know. Good to know, because I would have thought, oh, it's April, but yeah. I feel like I could ask you questions all day long, and hopefully we'll get to do this again sometime. But is there any question that I should have asked that I didn't ask that we should visit about?
Oof. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like we're all so privileged to be a part of horses' lives. And it just brings us all together, and things like the Midwest Horse Fair is like a prime example of how fun that can be, all kinds of different people, and really just, you know, loving horses every day. And when you keep that in mind, right, when you're dealing with a horse, right, like when you keep his best interests in mind, like you can really never go wrong, right? And when you come from this place of love, trust, and understanding, the way you communicate with your horses, that can also never go wrong, you know? So I'm just excited to be one of the dressage representatives at the Nivus Horse Fair, and just in general, you know, even in my dressage world, it's fun to be a breath of fresh air, and yeah, always be, you know, lead by example of love your horses and ride them like they're your best friends because they should be.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, that sounds great. And I just can't wait to meet you in person and come watch you teach.
Yeah, ditto. I'm really looking forward to it. And
Cool.
thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Great. Bye.